you want to make sure if you have your project manager, like have some sort of incentive for them, or even if you're managing, to move the project quickly, because you want to be able to use the same money over and over. Ideally, you want to use the money at least 3 times in a year if you can do that. With turnkey, it's possible because you're not going through lender issues, you're not going through agents and whatnot. But at a minimum, have a goal to use the same money twice in 12 months. My name is Sharad. I am the owner and founder of Resimpli. I live in Carlsbad, California, 30 minutes north of San Diego. Happily married with 2 kids. That's my beautiful family in the picture. Just some information. I've been vegan for past 4 years. I passed my road test on 3rd attempt in New York. And then the first time I ever drove was from New York to Chicago. That was the first time I ever drove, so that was kind of fun. And like I mentioned, I'm founder and CEO of Resimpli, active real estate investor in Northwest Indiana, right outside of Chicago. So practically suburb of Chicago, 30 to 45 minutes outside of Chicago. So my office I have an office in Indiana, about 30 minutes from downtown Chicago. I've completed about 750 deals since I bought my first property in August 2010. I do about 20-25 flips a year now. I own about 50 plus rental properties. All but 2 properties are paid for. So I own majority of them free and clear. I also own a property management company. We manage about 200 units, including my units. And the reason I started the property management company was we do a lot of turnkey properties. So properties that we sell to our turnkey buyers, we keep the management in-house in some of those cases. And I'm on a personal mission to help real estate investors close more deals with less software. So that's why we started this weekly mastermind call. So if you have any questions on that, I will be more than happy to answer that. This is our most asked for training. So if you guys have any question, please feel free to unmute and ask or put it in the chat, and then I can go over that. So this is a training based on how I am using my lead manager in my business. So just a little bit of background about my company. We do about 20-25 flips a year now. We don't really wholesale our properties. We're buying, closing on them, and then average rehab is about 40 to 50,000. I live in California. My project manager that's managing all the projects for us lives 1 hour north of me. So she also lives in California. My lead manager lives in Canada. She used to live in Philippines, but she moved to Canada for her education. So she's still working for us, but now she lives in Canada. We don't have any local person. We don't have any acquisition manager in our business. So actually my lead manager is the one who's also acting as an acquisition manager. I do have a local agent in Indiana that I work with if we really need someone to go look at the property outside of our contractors. But we do have, anytime we buy a property, our contractors go look at the property before closing on it, because we're actually closing on all of them and doing rehab. So we bought some property sight unseen, but majority of them, I would say 98-99% of them will actually go physically, we'll go look at them. Okay. So that's background of our company. I haven't been in Indiana in last 6 months. And prior to that, I hadn't been in Indiana for 3 or 4 years. So I didn't go. So it's a very automated business for us. We have very systems, processes that we follow, and I'm hardly involved in the business for more than 20 to 30 minutes a week. And my involvement is to the point, all the rehabs we're doing, I've never met any of our contractors. I don't even know any of their names. I don't have their contact information. The way we manage our projects is I have a separate bank account set up for my project manager. Once a week or twice a week, I'll move some money over there. She pays the contractors. Then my bookkeeper, she goes in, recently reconciles everything, puts all the transactions, and then I'll just talk to my project manager, go through and kind of make sure everything is good. Everything makes sense. I'm just basically managing my business strictly based on numbers, and that's it. I don't even look at any pictures of the houses we're buying. I don't even have any intention of walking into any of the houses. So it's very, very hands-off business. So If you guys want to talk about that on a separate call, more than happy to do that. But basically, the way our process works right now is we do a lot of inbound marketing, direct mail, PPC, and then cold calling. And then we do paper lead also, like you need to sell my house fast. And then we're also working with Brian Driscoll, I think his last name, from Motivated Lead. So we get inbound leads. And then if they are, and this is for if it's coming in from call, but the same applies if it's coming in from your online leads. But we get an online lead or incoming lead come in, then we look at, okay, were we able to answer the call? If not, they automatically go on a drip campaign. Basically, we simply drip missed call. We don't have any name or address for them. So they just automatically go on that. And one of the steps of the drip campaign is for my lead manager to follow up with the lead and get the information. And if they leave a voicemail, then we review the call details. If they are just calling us and saying they're not interested in selling their property, we just move them to dead lead. Now, this is a little bit subjective. Some people like to keep those people on their leads and just continue follow up. But for us, if someone says, hey, I'm not interested in selling my property, you sent me a postcard or letter, can you please take me off your mailing list? We just take them off our mailing list. We get their address, move them to dead lead just to make sure that we don't market to them again. All right, if they're interested in selling, the next thing we see is, do we have an address available? If we do, first thing we do is run the comps. Most of the houses that we're buying, so we're in just in one county, Northwest Indiana, and even in that county, we're in like 4 cities, like 95% of what we buy is in those 4 cities. So we know the comps of the area, but if we get something outside of that, or a weird property or outside of the areas that we buy, that's when we'll have our agent be involved in when comps are out. But for the most part, we know our numbers. Zillow is pretty good in our area. We can be 90-95% sure on the Zillow value in our neighborhood. So we go based on that. So we'll run our comps, see what our numbers are. And then we look at, did the seller provide a mortgage amount, right? So let's say if the house is worth $200,000, and then the seller says, hey, I have a mortgage on the property for $180,000. There's something, we're not willing to work on that property. For us, then we refer that over to an agent and let the agent deal with that. But just for our internal purposes, we'll put them on an agent referred drip, just to follow up with the agent if they were able to close, and then if there's any referral fee that we should get. But in this case, like if the house is worth $200,000, and if the seller has, let's say, a mortgage of more than $160,000 on it, then we just pass on it. We're not willing to work on any short sales or anything. It's just not a very viable option in the market, so we pass. But if the mortgage is less than 80%, then we call the lead back, and then the next thing is, were we able to get the seller on the phone? If not, then now that we have their name and address, hopefully based on the voicemail that they left, then we put them on different drip. Now we have their name and address. So the drip is, the message is a little bit more personalized. Instead of saying, hey, we received a missed call from you about a property that you may be interested in selling. Now it says, hey, Joe, you had called us and left us a voicemail about 123 Main Street. Were you still interested in selling that property? So it's a bit more personal voicemail, messages. For us, if we get someone on the call, the motivations that we're looking at to qualify is, why are they looking to sell? What is their motivation? If they're just calling us and saying, hey, I just want to get an offer, then they're not super motivated. And then the condition of the house. If the house needs some work done, then definitely that's a good opportunity for us to add value to them. But if they've done rehab in last year or 2 years and the house is in pretty good condition, every now and then we'll get those calls. And most of the time, or almost always, those people are looking for way more than what we're willing to pay. And then how soon are they looking to sell their property? For us, we have a property under contract. It met all the lead qualification except for the timeline, where they had a huge motivation to sell, the condition, the property needed a lot of work, and the price worked out, but then they were not willing to sell immediately. The reason for that being, the owner of the house is in some medical care facility, and she has to go through surgery and we just found out, like, my lead manager emailed the title company to follow up with the seller on when we can schedule the closing. She said she has to go through a surgery, so she cannot, she's not willing to close on the deal for another month or two. And this has already been like 3 months since we signed the contract. So we'll see. We'll try to get an extension, but I don't think the seller is super willing. So yeah, you want to make sure the timeline. Typically, if someone is going to sell their house in 30 to 60 days, most 90 days, they generally tend to be more motivated versus someone says, whenever I get the right offer, or if they say, I'm looking to sell in the next 6 months to a year, they generally don't tend to be super motivated and they're looking for higher price. And the next thing is, how much are they looking to sell the house for? Again, we try to get that information. Again, if the house is worth $200,000, but for some reason they're not willing to take less than 180 to 160, then it's not really a deal for us. We'll refer it over to an agent and let the agent deal with that property at that point. And then we find out if there's any other situations, if there is, if they're going through a divorce, or if, it's a probate, multiple siblings involved. So that's the information we want to make sure we understand, where we may have one sibling, ready and willing, and super qualified, super motivated, but then you have other, 3 or 4 siblings that are involved, and then you have to go through this whole qualification process with them. You may have one sibling who's ready to sell for $200,000 house for 100,000, but the other sibling is not going to sign anything less than 180,000, for example. So then you have to make sure, you manage all those moving pieces. And then if the lead is qualified, again, for us, because we're closing on all the properties, we schedule an appointment. The appointment is not for our acquisition manager. We don't have any acquisition manager. We don't have any local person on the ground. So the appointment is actually for our contractors to walk through the property. So at that point, my project manager, Claudia, she will take over. So my lead manager, name is Apple. She will send the appointment information over to Claudia, and Claudia will have one of our contractors go and walk through the property and then make sure that everything looks as, all the condition of the property, essentially to get the rehab number. How much is it going to cost for us to get their property in market condition, depending on what our exit is. Most of the times, given what the market is, we prefer doing turnkey properties to other investors. It helps just sell the properties faster. We make more money on those properties, and then we don't have any closing costs and whatnot. And then we also get to increase the number of properties that our property management companies is managing. But that's just for us, because we have a property management company. But for us, our appointment is not for the acquisition manager, not just for our contractor to give us an estimate. The contractor will also take pictures, videos, and then my project manager will upload that in the property folder for us in Resimpli. And if the lead is not qualified, then we find out, will this be a qualified lead in future? For example, if the seller is interested in selling, they have the motivation, the condition, the price, everything makes sense, but they're not just willing to sell the property now. For some reason, they want to sell the property in 6 months to a year. Then we put them in a long-term follow-up, and then we just follow up with them, once a month or once every other month, depending on their motivation, just to stay on top of their mind, just letting them know, hey, Joe, this is Sharad with Max Housefire, just touching base with you and making sure that, if anything has changed, let us know. We're still interested in buying your house. So that's all we're doing. And then depending on, if you don't hear back from them, depending on how the lead came in, we may also send them a direct mail. If the lead came in through a direct mail, and, we'll include direct mail as part of our drip campaign also. That really tends to help. Sometimes when you're trying to call or text the homeowner, you're not able to get in touch with them. It's a very simple thing, but sending them a postcard as part of the drip really tends to help, because if that's something intangible in front of them, it just makes a small difference that, it goes to show that you're still interested, and then they may have gotten busy, not being able to respond to your texts or calls, but having something intangible in front of them, especially if you heard back from them through direct mail. That's how they initially contacted you, then, add that as part of your follow-up. And if they're not even, if they for some reason, after initially they qualified, but then, they changed their mind or whatnot, then we just simply move them to dead lead and remove them from any future marketing at that point, unless it comes back into your pipeline through any inbound marketing, through PPC or, through paper lead or any of that. So that's our process. And then for us, the most important role for our lead manager is to get as many qualified appointments as possible. So for us, I wrote acquisition manager just like as a generic training, but for us, that means get as many appointments as possible for our contractors to go look at that property. That's the most important thing, to the point. I mean, now she's making offers on the property. She sent me an offer to sign yesterday for a property where she talked to the seller. She went through the whole script. The seller is motivated. She sent me an offer to sign for $60,000. I don't even go in, check and verify everything because she's been with me for 4 or 5 years. She knows her number. She knows everything that we're looking to do, the numbers that make sense for us. And then we have Claudia, my project manager, goes in and double checks to make sure that everything numbers work out. And then she also knows how much we can sell the property for as a turnkey property. So we have like a couple of people checking on that. So it works out. But yeah, for us, most important role for lead manager is to get appointments. So for you, it might be for acquisition manager, whether it's in-person appointment or phone appointment. For us, it's the contractor walkthrough, and that's what we're basically checking, making sure. Some of the lead manager KPIs that you want to track is how many calls are they making, follow-up calls are they making. So for us, the number is 50 follow-up calls per day. In addition, she's also doing cold calling for us for 3-4 hours a day. So she's calling about 150 to 200 people a day, cold calling. But then these are on the lead side of it. The expectation is that she's following up with 50 leads that we have in our pipeline on a daily basis. There should not be any pending tasks left at the end of the day. There should not be any open leads. Open leads mean any lead that has gotten back to us through call, text message, and then we haven't gotten back to them. So that should be 0. Internal inbox, meaning any messages that we've sent internally, it should be 0. And then we should not have any leads that don't have any drip or that are not on any drip or don't have any pending tasks. So that should also be 0. As long as every lead that we have in our pipeline, except dead leads, have either a drip assigned to it or it has a pending task assigned to it, that means that our leads are being followed up, that there's someone following up on the leads. So I will show you really quick on what that means. So we go on the dashboard. So I would want to make sure that this number, the task view number, is 0 for everyone on my team. Every single new lead has been accounted for. Open messages are any open leads. So this number should be 0. And then internal inbox are the internal messages between teams, that should be 0. And then this is really important, abandoned lead section. If you guys are not following, if you guys are not monitoring, I would highly recommend you monitor this. And we also send this out on email every single day to you guys. You want to make sure that all the leads that you have, so this shows me any leads that are being abandoned, mean no one on my team is working on it. So if I look at this, I have 10 leads in my new leads that are not on any drip campaign. And then of those 10 leads right here, 6 don't have any pending tasks. And then there are 6 leads that don't have any drip and they're not on any pending tasks, meaning out of these 10 leads, there are 6 leads that no one on my team is working for. If there is no pending task assigned to a lead, and if they're not on any drip, that means no one on my team is actually working on it. So for us, except dead leads, every lead, this number basically should be 0. There should be someone actively working on every single lead, meaning either there is a drip on it, so someone, system is automatically following, or there is a pending task assigned to someone to take an action, a future action on it. If it's 0, if the number is greater than 0, that means that is a lead in your pipeline that no one is accountable for, no one is working for. So if you're not checking the abandoned leads section, highly recommend you check this on a daily basis. This will ensure that you have no lead that is falling through your pipeline. So again, for us, any lead except dead lead should always have, either it should be on a drip or it should have a task assigned to it. And that's how we kind of monitor and make sure that no lead is falling through the cracks. And then just for reference purposes, based on what we are paying our lead manager and what other investors, whether they have someone in Philippines or in US, what they're paying. The base pay is anywhere from $4 to $6 an hour if you're hiring someone Philippine. And then depending on, what their role and responsibilities, you might be paying anywhere from $50 to $250 per closed deal to your lead manager. If you have someone based in US, then you might be paying anywhere from $12 to $20 an hour. And the bonus might be anywhere from $250 to $1,000 per closed deal, again, depending on how much involvement that they have in the business. And then this is basically summary. Like, you want to make sure that you have no leads that are being left behind, meaning every single lead in your pipeline is accounted for, meaning they should either be on a drip or they should have a follow-up task for someone to take an action on that lead, whether it's for lead manager, whether it's for your, an acquisition manager, project manager, whoever it might be, as long as it's on a drip or it has a task, that means someone is working on it and it updates daily in real time and you get an email. So have a look at that. And listen to call recording. If you have your lead manager, acquisition manager taking inbound calls, making outbound calls, make sure you listen to the call recording and identify calls for coaching opportunities, especially if you hire someone new and, they're not being, showing empathy to the seller. For example, let's say if you get a call from a seller and your lead manager takes the call and the owner is talking about, that they had a death in the family or, they lost their dog or whatnot, whatever it might be. And your lead manager just brushes over that information and goes, oh yeah, so when can we come out and look at that property? Like that's definitely an opportunity to coach and, your lead manager, especially, if you have someone based from overseas, it might be a cultural difference, it might be a language difference, those are the opportunities that you want to take. And, you sit down with your team member and say, hey, if someone mentions that, they had a death in the family or some, life event that happened, just take a moment and then, just recognize that, just validate that, just show some empathy, and then build the relationship, build the rapport, and then kind of, you may not, if a seller gets emotional about something with the house, something to do with the house, whether it was their parents' house or whatnot, it's not necessarily that, you have a checklist that you have to go through. It could be just as simple as, hey, I understand, it's a very emotional decision for you. And, we don't want to rush or anything. Would you prefer that we set up a future time for us to call you? So those are the training opportunities, you want to have with your team. And then have some, when you're taking initial call, most of the calls, that you're taking, you're not going to have someone getting emotional, but you want to have a clear lead qualification, whatever it might be for your business. Like what I shared, it works for our business, but you might have something different for your business, right? For us, anyone that has a mortgage for more than 80% of the ARV of the house, that's a pass for us. Like we don't even want to go down the road of short sale or, dealing with that transaction. So we pass on it, but it may be different for you. You may have a licensed agent on your team. So you may have a different, more creative way to work on that lead. So whatever it is, just make sure you guys have a clear qualification standard for your team to follow. And it should be same for every single lead that you're going through. You want to make sure. And then, we are very task driven in our business. So we want to make sure there's a task for everything. If someone on my team needs me to do something, I'd say create a task. I'll go in and check that off. So you want to make sure that you're kind of getting your team into that habit of doing that, because then it's a clear, hey, did it get done or no? There is no gray area that, hey, I left you a note, did you reply or not? No, there's a task. Is it done or is it not done? That's as simple as that, if it's getting done or not getting done. And then the leads that are not on drip, again, majority of the leads that you're going to get in your business are not going to be super hot leads that are ready to sell right now. So you're going to make sure that you have them on some sort of a follow-up. And then with the 10 DLC regulation, just be mindful of, you're not sending a lot of spam messages, or you're not, sending them a lot of messages that will get your phone number as flagged as spam. So just be mindful of that. And then, that's where I think the value of direct mail will start coming back in. Some of the leads that you're trying to get in touch with, you may want to send them a direct mail, might be a good option. And then, again, like the end of the day, the most important thing for lead manager is to get as many qualified appointments as possible. I wrote down acquisition manager. Most of the people, it's going to be acquisition manager. For our business, it's for our project manager to walk the property. But at the end of the goal is to get as many qualified appointments as possible. So KPIs to track: calls made, appointment books, pending tasks, leads not a drip are the important KPIs. Lead manager daily task is to listen to calls, run comms, call back the lead, qualify lead, schedule appointment. And then this is again the approximate pay that you have for lead manager, whether it's based in the US, $12 to $20 an hour. If it's overseas, about $4 to $6 an hour with some bonus structure. So that's all I have. Any questions you guys have that I can go over? Wahib has a question. You have a project management company. Can you share with us how that works? Wahib, so I don't have a project management company. I have a project manager that works for us. She's on payroll. So her base salary is about 40,000, and then she gets 10% of all the profit that we make on a project with a minimum profit of $15,000. So if we make less than $15,000 on the project, she doesn't make anything. Anything over 15,000, she gets 10% of that project. And she does really, really good job. She's really fantastic. Like, we bought a package of 6 properties from MLS for 650,000, and we're selling all of them as a turnkey property individually. And I think we'll end up making like 400,000 on those 6 properties. We're rehabbing, renting them out, and then selling it to other investors. So she makes more money from bonus than she makes from the base pay. She's been with me since 2015 since 2015 or 16, I think. Yeah, I have a property management company. Yeah.
And can you break down, and if you don't mind sharing, the typical hours a week she might be doing, or how many projects she might be managing at one time? I only ask because that's something I'm dealing with right now. I've brought a project manager on staff, and we're trying to figure that out. It's a bit difficult for me since it's new.
So at any given time, we have about 4 to 6 projects going on.
Okay.
So what I've done is I have my primary bank is Chase Bank. Like, that's our main operating business account. But I've set up an online account with Novo Bank. You can use any bank, but we use Novo Bank. So I've set up an account with Novo Bank, and every week I'll transfer like $15,000 to $20,000 in that bank, and she is paying all our contractors through bill pay. Right? She pays everyone, and then my bookkeeper, she's going in. So we manage everything through Resimpli. We don't use any other system. Again, I'm not trying to push anyone. Like, everything, all our bookkeeping, accounting, project management, everything is being done within Resimpli. So I can go in at any given time into the project, and I can see how much money we've exactly spent on the property, like including pictures. Here, I'll show you a real project really quick. So let me.
Yeah, and just to add something, in case a bunch of people have questions that are not related to this, if Sharad, you don't mind if we get an email thread going back and forth, I'm really interested.
Please.
How
absolutely.
you're operating that. Because
absolutely.
one issue that we had, because where we were looking at, I mean, we love Resimpli. She loves it. The only issue she's been having is, as a project manager, she's on the go a lot, right? She's at the job sites, checking on the contractors, things like that. And then Resimpli's mobile functionality isn't the best for project management. So she's just had a hard time with it.
Yeah,
and so that's what we've been trying to figure out.
We will be updating that. A lot of people have asked for like scope of works on the app, but these are my actual projects that I have going on. So you can see this one is under contract, and I have not looked at any one of them. I've not seen any one of the property. This one I found out, like, the appraisal came a little bit low, so we were expecting to make 85,000, but appraisal came at 20,000 on lower, so we're gonna make about 65,000 on it. But if I go in, I can literally click right here. Claudia is my project manager. I go into financials. I can see exactly how much money we spent. There's some once my bookkeeper updates it, and then I can go into any project that we have, and I can click on it, and I can click on financials and see exactly how much money we spent on that property. So this way, and then any project that I want to see for somebody, if I want to go see pictures, I can click right here, and I can see, like, we have the building permit right here. So we haven't started working on it. I can see the building permit. I can see the lease copies, all the pictures that we have. Everything is right here. So I can click on any one of them, and I can see any information that I want to access about that property.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then
Yeah,
any
that helps out a
communication that
lot.
we have, we'll just keep it right here. Anything that's going on, she'll just let me know, and I'll be like, okay, sounds good. Keep me posted, please.
Gotcha. Now, and does she also operating as like a Class A contractor with her own crew, or is she subbing all that out as well?
So she's not licensed because she lives in California. So she's not licensed. We're not licensed ourselves as a company.
Yeah.
We're subbing it out to contractors that are licensed, and she is managing all of that.
Gotcha.
I'm honestly honestly, if you were one of my contractors, I could even tell. I have no idea. Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's how I
Okay.
like it, because my
Yeah,
value add
absolutely.
is not, like qualifying contractors.
Definitely.
Claudia is absolutely amazing at that, and she loves it. She flies out. During COVID, she didn't fly out, but now she flies out like once every 4 to 6 months. She also owns a couple of her properties, while working with us. Every now and then, if you buy something, she'll be like, hey, can I buy this from you at a fair price? I'm like, yeah, that's fine. And then she's built her own portfolio, like 4 or 5 properties. So she'll fly out for that once every 6 months or so. And then she'll meet the contractors and just kind of, build relationship that way.
Oh, so she isn't even like in the market that you guys buy in.
Oh yeah, yeah. She lives in California. Yeah. So yeah, sorry.
Wow.
You were not. Yeah,
That's
I live
amazing.
in California. My project manager lives in California. My uh, lead manager lives in Canada, and then we
Wow.
invest in Indiana. So it's a very, very
That's amazing.
remote.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then she's been doing that for like 6, 7 years like this, and she's really
Wow.
good at that. Yeah. Yeah, if you want to connect offline, and I'm more than happy to like share any additional information.
Definitely. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, yeah, please send me an email. Yeah. Oh, and then if you guys want copies here, okay, here, I'm gonna put this in the chat. We've done a bunch of these calls. So these are all the like the flow charts that we've been. This is the one for lead manager just now. We went over the training, but there's some other ones also. This is kind of how, you want to think of your, how your company's set up. So you have access to it. You can download all of these. I put it in the chat. It's a Google Drive, so you can download and use it how you wish to use. Any other questions on lead manager? Yeah, so Ricky said, to clarify, you don't have any acquisition manager touching base or making offers. No, so that's my lead manager does that. I don't know, Ricky, if you're on call. So she lives in Canada now, but she's originally from Philippines. She moved to Canada this year, April, and she's still working with me. It fits her. She moved here for higher education to Canada. It fits her schedule. She makes all the calls. She does everything. And now that she's been, with the company for like 4 years or so, she knows. I mean, she can make offers. She knows the number. She can communicate with the seller. So she's good enough to like just make offers and manage all of that. So we don't need acquisition manager. Yeah, so she's basically acting as an acquisition manager. Should I, are you speaking about commission for my lead manager or the project manager? So while I wait for Jania, all right. So my project manager, she's making 40,000 base, plus she gets 10% off all the profit that we make. The only thing we deduct, so it's basically, let's say if we buy a house for 100,000, we put 50 into it, we sell for 200. Let's say, assuming, let's just say for the simple example, there's no other cost. Our profit is 50,000, then she will make 10% of that on all the projects. Okay. And then every now and then, if she's like super involved in a project, we had like a really difficult tenant that we had to evict, then I'll give her a little bit extra bonus. But typically, she makes 10% of that. One thing we do is, because, we're doing a lot of marketing, and Tyler, this ties into your question. So I use, because my properties, rental properties are paid for free and clear, except 2 properties. So I have a line of credit against those properties. So we use that to fund our project, and I use some of my own money. I use some private money, no hard money, either line of credit, my own money, or private money. Because we're borrowing in lump sum, we're not always like allocating money that we borrow against a specific project. So what we do is, let's say if, and this ties into kind of keeping our projects, moving fast, is So let's say if you buy property on Jan 1, and it's a $100,000 property, we put 50 into it, and we're going to sell for 200,000. Now it's a huge difference if I sell that property for 200,000 on December 31st versus if I sell it on April 30th. Because if I sell it on April 30th, I'm still making 50,000, but I made the 50,000 in 4 years versus 12 months. So what I've done with my project manager is I've told Claudia, all right, Claudia, whatever money we're going to spend on the project, every month we are holding the property, we're going to take 1% for every month and deduct it off the net profit. It goes towards our holding costs. It goes towards a little bit of go towards our marketing costs because we're not able to allocate to a specific project. So let's say in this case, we buy the property on Jan 1st for 100,000. We put 50 into it and we sell it on April 30th for 200,000. We make 50,000. Now what we do is, because it took us 4 months to do the project and our total cost on that property is 150, we'll take $1,500 for each month. So $6,000 for 4 months and deduct it from 50,000. So our net profit will be $44,000, and that's what the bonus will be based on. So now every month we're holding the property, it's actually costing her $150 on that property. And then now the same property, if we buy it on Jan 1st, we put, buy it for 100, put 50 into it and sell it on December 31st, we make 50,000. But if you look at it took us whole year, now $1,500 times $1,500 for every month for our interest and other marketing costs over 12 months is now $18,000. Okay, so now that 18,000 instead of 6,000 coming out of our net profit, it's 18,000. So it actually cost her $1,800 of her own money because it took us a long time to do the project. So that's why for us, when we're flipping, it's about move as quickly as possible to the point. Let's say if a contractor gives us a bid to, let's say plumber gives us a bid to do, it's going to be $700 to do, some plumbing work, but he's not available for 2 months. Versus someone is going to charge $1,000, he can do it right now. We'll go with the one with $1,000 because it's important for us to move the money faster. Another benefit is now the faster you do a project, the more times you can use the same money over and over again. Let's say if we're really efficient, our goal is for our turnkey properties to be in and out of the project in 30 days. But sometimes we run into issue because we have tenants, we have to evict them. But if you buy a vacant property, from the time we buy to the time so cash goes in to the cash comes out, it should be 90 days. It doesn't always happen, but that's what we want to aim for if the property is vacant when we buy them. But there's like delays with the city or whatnot. So let's say if I have a property that I buy on Jan 1st, let's go back to the example of I sell it on April 30th. Now I have the same money available April 30th. I can use it for another project, right? So I'm using the same $150,000 for another project in the year. So it's almost like I've doubled my capital just by being efficient versus if I bought the property in Jan 1st and it took me a whole year to rehab the property. Now I only have the opportunity to use that $150,000 once in my business. So imagine, a lot of people, they like to do their own work. To me, depending on what your specialty is, for me, that's like super inefficient. I remember when I first started rehabbing, I used to be active on Bigger Pockets and people would talk about, hey, I do my own painting. And I bought this house. This was my second property that I bought, and it had wallpaper in the bathroom. I'm like, you know what? I don't do any handyman stuff, but let me go to Home Depot, buy this spray that I can spray on wallpaper. And then they used to sell this tool. I don't even know what it's called, but you can just basically scrape the wallpaper. I did that for about an hour. I'm like, what the hell am I doing? This is not the value that I bring to the business. I'm like, I'm never, ever doing this again. Even in my own home, I don't know if I should be embarrassed or I should be proud. I don't even like changing light bulbs. If I can reach it easily by stepping on a 3-step stool, I'll change it. Outside of that, I don't do that. I'm not good at it. I get frustrated. I just move on. It's just better for a handyman to do that. And my handyman just, yeah. So yeah, for us, you want to make sure if you have your project manager, have some sort of incentive for them, or, even if you're managing, to move the project quickly, because you want to be able to use the same money over and over. Ideally, you want to use the money at least 3 times in a year if you can do that. With turnkey, it's possible because you're not going through lender issues. You're not going through agents and whatnot, but at a minimum, have a goal to use the same money twice in 12 months. Because then the more you're able to use the money, basically you're doubling or tripling your available capital that you have. If someone gives you $100,000 at the beginning of the year, a private money lender, you have $100,000. If you're efficient, you can use the same $100,000 2 or 3 times in a year versus you can use it once. Imagine like you've doubled or tripled your profit if you're just efficient with your projects, rehabs and stuff. All right, Janaya, which bank do you use get a line of credit? I have with a local bank, People's Bank is who I use. I think they're just an Indiana bank from what I understand. But yeah, that's who we use, People's Bank in Indiana. But I would just call local bank, like don't call Chase, Bank of America, or Wells Fargo. Just call all the local banks, credit unions, and if possible, oh yeah, Mitchell said he uses People's Bank also. Yeah, I've been super happy with them. Great bank to work with. But the better relationship that you build with your local bank, the better terms you will be able to get with that lender. I mean, my lender has done me huge favors, just because I've been working with them for like 6-7 years now. And Ricky has a question on, do you have a recommendation on finding a project manager? I'm not sure if I started off paying her salary and then switch to commission. So I've always paid her. So Ricky's question is recommendation finding a project manager. And if I started off paying her salary and then switch to commission only. So she's not commission only, she is salary plus commission. She does a lot. I mean, even we bought a house in Carlsbad and she managed the project for me for my house in Carlsbad. She should come down like 2 or 3 times a week, just manage the contractors, just because she wanted to be more involved. But her base is 40,000 plus commission, 10% of the profit with minimum $15,000 profit on the project. And she makes, more from commission that she does from salary. I honestly found her on Craigslist. I honestly found her when I moved to Carlsbad back in 2015, and I'd moved from Indiana or Chicago. And then, I thought I had an office and I thought I should have someone come in person. This was like way before COVID. So she would come in like 3 times a week. And I'm like, Claudia, you know what? You don't need to come in 3 times a week. You can do the same work from home. And I'm like, just come in twice a week. And I'm like, you know what? You don't need to come in twice, just come once a week. And then after like a couple of months, I'm like, you know what? Just work from home. You're doing a good job. There's nothing, there's no need for you to come into like my home office where you can just work from home. So she's been working from home, even though, we live like 1 hour drive. I don't see her like maybe once a year or, maybe a couple of times a year at most. But outside of that, there's no need. I mean, she knows what needs to be done. And then she's really good at it. And then I just try to stay out of her way so she can do what she needs to do. For me, what I have noticed is not just hiring people, for my house flipping business, Resimpli, or any business, is for me, what's really important is that they have the right character and ethics. Anything that we're doing in real estate, it's a skill that anybody can pick up easily, right? But let's say if I have my project manager that I'm trusting a lot with, I'm trusting her with, this bank account that she has full access to, that she can, she's writing checks, she's doing all of that. For me, the important thing is that somebody that I'm working with is hardworking and, understands the value of the business. The core value of the business is honest. If she did not have any project manager experience, I think she used to be an admin assistant before that. But, I started giving her small tasks. She was really good at it. And then I would just keep giving her more and more and more, and then she kept doing it. I even tried to, at one point, have her be in charge of the marketing. And that's where I knew like that's not her skill set. That's something she was not interested in. But the project management stuff, like she's absolutely amazing at that. But let's say if you hire someone and they're super experienced at project management, but they're not honest, like there's no training that you can send that person to and say, hey, can you go take this training and just learn how to be honest and ethical. You can't do that. But if you hire someone honest and ethical, then you can say, hey, I love your work ethics, but I think this is a really important skill that you should have. Can you take this course and just learn a little bit about ins and outs of project management? You can do that. So for us, the important thing is that someone is willing to work hard, has good work ethics, honest, integrity, and then everything else is teachable, right? And then, I can have them go through the courses, coaching and stuff, and then they can learn that skill. But for us, whoever you're hiring, at least, it's a sales job, it's a little bit different, but project management, lead management, like those are the skills, as long as you have someone good, hardworking, and then you can teach them those skills. So Tyler says, so you guys still audit an appraisal before closing on your deals? We don't. What we do, Tyler, is we're pretty confident on our numbers on the deals that we're buying. Again, we're buying in like only 4 or 5 cities in our area, so we know how much we can sell them for. We try to push the numbers, like the house that I showed you. I think we were trying to sell for 2. So we basically, for our turnkey properties, the way we price those properties is whatever the monthly rent is times 1,000 is what 1,000 or 100 is what we charge, times 100. So if, let's say, the monthly rent is $1,000, we sell that property for $100,000. So that's how we set up our pricing. So like this property that we're selling in East Chicago, I think we're getting monthly rent of $250,000 or $2,500, sorry, $2,500, and we price it at $250,000. We had a buyer willing to pay for $250,000, but we were pushing the market value. The appraisal came in at $230,000. We're still making, $65,000 on it. We would have made $85,000 on it, but we're making $65,000 on it. It's still great. But we don't order appraisal because we're pretty confident on the numbers, but we'll still try to, when you're selling turnkey, we'll try to push the value higher to see if we can get that. But one thing we do is just to have like an extra, layer of checks and balances. Especially, I'd mentioned on some of my previous calls, some turnkey properties we sell on group stock. So we will have a home inspector before we have our property go through an actual inspection. We'll have our own independent home inspector go through and inspect the property, just to make sure the contractors that we're working with are doing a good job. They're not missing out on any, important stuff that they should be doing with the house. Like, it's easy to tell about the cosmetics work with the house, but sometimes, the foundation issue, the mechanical issue. So we'll have a home inspector. Now we work with this home inspector a lot instead of his typical fee of like $400, $500, because we're not expecting, full report, like he'll charge like $150, $200 and just go through and just tell, hey, this looks good. You may want to have this be buttoned up before we have the property on the market. And that helps us a lot. Jasmine has a question. Could you please tell me what's the easiest way for me to explain to a potential seller how does the equity protection works? Jasmine, I'm not sure what you mean. Can you explain that a little bit more? Or if somebody else knows what that means, I'm not sure what that means, equity protection. I don't know in what context you're using that term.
Well, sometimes people does not want to get my offer because I know it's maybe it's less than the actual value for the property. Sometimes people wants to get more than prop stream value, for example. So
Right.
instead of the property, so what I'm trying to do just to explain to them how to equity protection works. But I'm just new into this. Excuse me, as far as offering that option, because the person does not want to list the property and is not agreeing to my offer. So yeah, I just wanted to know how you guys work, or if this has worked for you, or if
Yeah,
you have this.
what I would ask them is, like, what is it that, how did they come up with the number? Is I would start out with, because a lot of time what happens is, let's say if I have a house that, I'm living in and I see the house, down the street sold for $200,000. And that's a lot of time, that's how the sellers will come up with the number that, hey, I know my, house down the street sold for $200,000. That's what, I'll take 190,000. But then you need to educate them, okay, on the house that sold down the street for $200,000, it had, new roof, it had new HVAC system, it had new plumbing, new electric, it was fully, updated. But the house that the seller is trying to sell, needs a lot of work done. And then, at that point, you just want to say, hey, you can, instead of 190, you can actually get $200,000, but given the condition of the house that it's in, you need to put $50,000. And then, you need to be upfront and say, if you have $50,000 available in your cash, which majority of the sellers won't, then you just say, hey, I would recommend that you finish the work and then sell it for $200,000, not 190. But if not, then you need to keep in mind that, anybody who buys the house will need to spend that $50,000 in the house. But it's a good sign that they don't want to list the house. That means they have they probably already have thought about their option. They've already had an agent come through and look at the house and, given them the same information about the house. At that point, I would just say, yeah, I mean, if you have the money available to put into the house, then I would definitely go ahead and do that. But if not, then you may want to give that money basically in equity over to another homeowner to come in and put that into the house. And then you have to focus on the value that you bring into the seller, right? Focus on the value that you're able to buy the house as is. You're able to close on the deal at their convenient, like the time that works for them. They don't have to do any repair, and if they need some additional time, at least that's what we offer. If we close on a house and the seller needs like a month or two after the closing to stay in the house, we offer that. That works for us. We offer that. So that works for if that's something you're willing to offer. Some sellers we've even offered, we partnered up with the local moving company and said, hey, depending on the house that we negotiate, price that we negotiate, we may say, hey, we'll pay for your moving costs. You don't have to worry about it. If you're moving locally, within like 50 to 75 miles, we'll pay for your moving costs. Just tell us what you want to take with you, and we will hire the movers. We'll have them pack and do everything and take it to wherever you want. Whatever you do want to take, just leave it in the house, and we'll take care of everything. So those are the things that you want to offer on. But as far as equity, if someone is saying the house down the street sold for 200,000, then just say, yes, you can sell for 200,000 also, but this is everything that you need to do, and it's going to cost you about $50,000. If you're able to get, contractors, if you have $50,000 available to pay for all the repairs, and I think that's where they'll realize that the best option is to sell to an investor.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Thank you.
Any other questions, guys, that I can answer for you guys? All right. Thank you so much. We'll be doing another call later this week on just NDLC changes and updates. I know you guys have a lot of questions, and we've been putting information on our Facebook group. So if you guys are not part of the group, I highly recommend you join the group. It's just easier for us to post some quick updates there. I'm going to put a link in the group. You can just click on it and just request to join the group. And then and once you are in the group, then we just post like some quick updates there, whether it's related to 10 DLC or some feature updates and whatnot. Hey, Tyler, you had a question?
Yeah, are the drip campaigns that you use in your business the same ones that are like in Resimpli?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
the ones that you start out with, and then you may want to tweak based on your business needs. It's basically like when you think of drip campaign, the whole purpose is that you're staying in touch with the seller, right? You're just letting them know of your interest in buying the house. I don't think there's any like magic phrase that you can use that's gonna get you the deal. For me, the most important thing is, I mean, think of it this way, like if you put it in different contexts, right? Let's say if you're not in the market to buy a car, but you have this Toyota dealership that every quarter sends you a postcard, right? Every quarter they send you a postcard saying, hey, we have this sale going on. This is like, year-end sale, Thanksgiving sale, Memorial Day, whatever, they send you. You're not even in the market to buy a car. Let's say a year from now, you're in the market to buy a car. Just because you have been getting that postcard, just automatically at least gonna think about that dealership, right? They didn't do anything special. They just told you that, hey, they have this inventory of cars available. I mean, of course, when you send a drip, you wanna like focus on the value that you're adding. But the most important thing is just being in front of the seller, just letting them know that you're interested in buying their house. That's what I've noticed is the most important thing. I mean, of course, if you have someone going through probate, then you can tweak it. If you have someone coming in through online leads, if you have someone coming in through radio or TV, then you can tweak the message a little bit. But at the end of the day, someone who just, disappears on you will happen with a lot of sellers. They show interest and then they're nowhere to be found. The important thing you want to keep in mind is just let them know, hey, I'm still interested in buying your house. I'm ready whenever you are ready to sell your house. That's like however you communicate that, that's the most important thing you want to communicate to a homeowner. But yeah, I mean, all the drips that we have are built off that drip, and then we just basically copied and created duplicate based on different leads that we were getting.
Okay, appreciate it.
Yeah, Ross said the fortune is in the follow-up. Yeah, it just follow up without annoying someone, especially given with 10 deals. You want to be a little bit mindful of not sending spam messages because you can get flagged by the carrier.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
and like Jerome said,
Sharad,
always be on top of mind, most important part of marketing follow-up.
with the 10 DLC now, what's the best channel for drip campaigns, in your opinion?
I would still do text just because it's you have 100% open, and somebody you send a text to, they are gonna see it. I mean, they will see it, but you have to keep in mind, and we'll do a more detailed call about this, is let's say we're sending text messages to someone, I'm sure, I've already started noticing that the text that I get from businesses, now they have reply, stop to unsubscribe on every single message. So I'm sure, you'll start noticing that also. So the leads that are very engaged, I would be confident using text messages with them, right? But leads that are not, you haven't engaged with, I would just be a little bit hesitant about using text messages, because if they reply, if let's say you send messages to 1,000 people, what we've been told by our provider is that if 1 out of 1,000 messages get flagged by the recipient, so if 1 out of 1,000 people reply back stop, right, or quit or unsubscribe, that gets your phone number flagged by the carrier. It doesn't mean it will like just automatically your message will stop getting delivered. But let's say if 50 people do that out of 1,000 people, right? If 50 people do that, then what happens is then it really raises a red flag with the carrier, and it could block your numbers. We've already started noticing that, we can only share the best practices, but if people start, continue sending text messages, spam text message, then eventually your numbers will just get blocked and there's nothing we can do. So the leads that are engaging with you, I would send them text message. I would say, hey, is it okay if I send you this information via text message? The leads that are not, I would see if you can get their email address. It's not the same delivery, experience as text messages, but I would look into direct mail. I think that would become more important in my opinion. If you're having difficult time following up, if you have the right information to follow up with them, then I would do that. And I would definitely get some toll-free number, because toll-free number doesn't have the same 10 DLC requirement as a local area code number. I think it's a matter of time. Eventually, toll-free will also fall within 10 DLC. I think just the way more and more people start spamming using toll-free, then eventually the carriers will do something with that. But definitely have a toll-free number, and then look at other ways that you can engage with the lead through direct mail, and then calling them. Texting you're doing, then you run the risk of people like replying stop to your message, and then it gets flagged. And if enough people do that, then you run the risk of carrier blocking your phone numbers.
Right. Yeah, I think direct mail is probably going to be the best option. That and back to cold calling, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, the whole point of, when you think about like whole point of 10 DLC is to prevent people from sending spam messages. So if we as real estate investors or other businesses were not sending spam to begin with, we would not have to go through this. But, it just because we're in this situation now, people are sending spam, and this is what the carriers have implemented, and then you have to respect. I mean, there's like if your numbers get blocked by carrier, and it's going to happen a lot with a lot of people, that they may get flagged, even though they're meeting all the requirements, they're playing by the rules, it's just going to happen. Like, for example, we had all our campaigns are getting approved even with the word cash in the website. And a lot of our users that use launch control is telling them that if you have cash on your website, like we pay cash in 7 days, then
Cash
your
offers,
website, yeah. So, but we haven't run into that issue. Like, our website, Resimpli websites are getting approved, no issues with that. But I think it'll eventually change as more and more people continue to start sending spam. The whole point is that you should only send messages to people that have opted in. But just the whole text message marketing, so the whole idea is like you're sending text messages to people that have not opted in. So just think about that. As more and more people do that, it'll eventually start affecting you, as like investor, as a community. I think I posted on our Facebook group something we received from Twilio where they clearly said that text message marketing, bulk text message marketing, is not allowed under 10 DLC. People are still going to do that until the carriers get super, super strict and say, hey, no, we're not going to allow this. So you want to be mindful. I think direct mail, cold calling, and then email. I would look into that, and then do text with people that are like engaging, and then you talk to them and you've said, hey, is it okay if I send you a text message from this phone number to follow up with anything? Yeah, then I would do that.
Great. Thank you very much, Sharad.
Yeah, and Jasmine, yeah, direct mail is way better for me than SMS. Yeah, I mean, I personally like direct mail just because it's not as intrusive as, for sure, texting. Imagine like if we started getting text messages from people randomly, hey, do you want to sell your house, do you want to sell your car, or random stuff, like you'll get annoyed also, and you'll start reporting those text messages. So just put yourself in the shoes of the person that you're sending messages to and see if would you want to receive that message. I think once this whole thing settles down, it's going to create some really good opportunities for investors that are playing by the rules. Like, imagine like right now, and I was having this call with someone earlier, how easy it is for someone to say, I'm an investor, and you have no way to question that, because you don't need any education, you don't need any qualification. You can just get up and say, I'm an investor. And you can do that with, hey, I'm a real estate agent, like, because no, you need to have certain qualification in order to do that. Like, I have my in-laws visiting from India, they could just tell me, hey, Sharad, I'm also a real estate investor, and I have no way to question that. There's nothing I can say. I'm like, no, you're not. Like, no, they are. I mean, just because they're calling themselves a real estate investor, they have a business card that says real estate investors. I think that's all the qualification need. So imagine like what's happened in last few years is somebody goes to PropStream, buys a list, skip list, and start texting. That's just, you start doing that. But now, all of a sudden, in a month or two, you won't be able to do that anymore. You won't be able to text anyone without going through a proper 10 DLC registration. You have to have your EIN number, you have to have your business, you have to prove your use case. Majority of the people are not going to go through that, people that are looking to spam. So now it opens up opportunities for other investors that are doing legit marketing. So I think that's where the opportunities are going to open. Previously what would happen is, let's say if I have a property worth $200,000, I have a new investor that starts texting and gets a seller interested at $150,000. Nobody's going to know, serious investor is going to pay $150,000. But if you have this newbie investor, excited that the seller agreed to sell a property for $150,000, gets the property under contract, and now tries to wholesale that deal to other investors for more than 150. No serious investor is going to pay that. But what happens with that case is, for the seller, now the seller has a new anchor price of $150,000. The seller doesn't know, most of the sellers won't know the difference between, an experienced investor or someone who's just starting out. They've set the price of, hey, this person was willing to pay me $150,000. You're paying me 100. Why should I take your offer? I'm going to keep, searching for someone until I get $150,000. you will have less and less of that happening because you won't have as many people doing texting. I think people shift to cold calling, which is a little bit more difficult than texting. Texting, you could be just sitting in your office and just doing, send, but you can't do that with calling anymore. So I think they'll open up some opportunities for experienced investors. I would look into inbound marketing, like your PPC, SEO, your paper lead, those direct mail, cold calling. I would start. And if, depending on your market, look at radio ads and TV ads. If that's something, you have the budget and the market that you're in supports that. So I would look into that because that's where some good opportunities are going to be there. And then on the follow-up, like I mentioned, the leads that are engaging with you, yes, use text messaging. But the leads that you're trying to re-engage and they've disappeared, like just keep in mind, you run the risk of getting all your numbers blocked by the carrier because you're sending, what they may perceive as a text, as a spam message. Again, sometimes they may wrongly, flag your messages, but there's nothing we can do other than like submit an appeal. But it's up to the carrier to say yes, we'll unblock your numbers or whatnot. So that's something you may not want to risk. Yeah. This has been a great call, guys. Thank you so much for being engaged. We'll do another call later this week, Thursday or Friday, specifically about 10 DLC and some best practices. So you'll get an email about that, and then we'll have a call recording also. So if you want to get access to these calls recording, I will put this right here. Recently, we put this on our YouTube channel, and then we also put it right here in our help center. Here, I'm going to put the chat. Yep. So you can go right here to this link, and you should see all the call recordings that we have for all the calls that I do or any speakers that we have come on. All the recordings go there, and also on our YouTube channel. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you for being engaged on the call. I'll see you guys on the next week call, and then you should receive an invite for the 10 DSC call either today or tomorrow for the call this week. Thank you. Have a great rest of the week. Thanks. Bye.